approximation and the least damaging alternative when you're dealing with three different interests involved in writing water policy. And I thought that this really resonated with a governance theme, participation and inclusion, and then it also related to a reading we read in class about 3 weeks ago called Deliberative Democracy, and this talked about justifying the why and giving a reason, why energy corporations would need more water than agricultural groups. So does this have potential in California? And I think it does.
Some recommendations for the government include increasing outreach and awareness campaigns, which have been proven successful at local levels. Also increasing monitoring and impact assessments during drought to gain a better understanding of sensitive and target impact sensitive areas. The third recommendation would be to increase efforts to link water management to land use decisions. For example, using bricks instead of poured concrete to facilitate groundwater recharge.
So recommendations for the market system. For one, I think that it would be more fruitful if they extended the participants to those who don't have water rights. Because, for example, if you have interest groups who want to work on projects such as local fisheries, having access to this water would be beneficial to them. So I think this water market system should extend to those without the rights. I think it's also important to look at alternative forms of capturing water, such as stormwater, so that more water is available for this market. And also, I believe the cooperation and joint combination of water rights will strengthen this market. And that concludes our presentation. So we'll take a question.
Do you have an example of any state or municipality that's tried implementing any of your recommendations already, and has there been success?
Well, in terms of implementing changing land use decisions to better work with water management, there was a study that I looked at from Wisconsin where people would implement things like rain gardens or just disrupting kind of solid impervious surfaces to allow for better infiltration, better groundwater recharge. California, it's more difficult to implement something like rain gardens because they don't really get rain. But just getting rid of complete impervious surfaces would at least contribute to groundwater recharge.
That statement just made me think of green roofs, like you catch rainwater in cities. It seems like it's a great way to catch groundwater. But you mentioned climate change, and I was just wondering in your studies if you found any correlation between the recurring periods of drought, if they're increasing with climate change, and if there's any talk of working to stop climate change so as to keep water resources healthy.
From my interview with the Legislative Affairs director, he said that through his work, they're mainly concentrating on dividing out the water, not so much. I mean, he's Legislative Affairs, so that's what he focuses on. But no, none of us really went in and delved into ways to prevent climate change. That's, I think, more on a federal level.
Yeah, in terms of stopping climate change, I think that might be a little unrealistic for the government of California.
But they are doing a lot of things.
But definitely, and climate change is having an effect on drought, changing precipitation frequencies, distributions throughout the state. And they've already, in the past decade, they've had 3 of the more significant droughts in the last 100 years. So the frequency is definitely increasing, the intensity is definitely increasing, and the correlation with climate change just seems to be obvious.
Thanks. I thought it was interesting, we talked in the course of the semester about the idea that the institutional change isn't the same everywhere. It goes at a different pace and different problems in different places. And if I understood what you were suggesting, is that you were suggesting that a movement towards a more market-oriented discourse was going to represent progress, in your view, but there was still some what you call the old discourse, which I guess was kind of a rigid bureaucratic controls, right? So that was a really nice example of how you're treating a turn towards market as being kind of path-breaking and innovative. In other parts of the course, we've kind of treated that as kind of 1990s. So I really like that. Was there any aspect of this third epic, which would be a more localized or more community-based or more nested approach, which would complement market in this new discourse?
Well, see, that's the issue, and I think that's why I recommended extending the participants of the water bank to those without rights, because the way it's set up, you have to have water rights, and those are typically agricultural farmers and state agencies and departments, and therefore you don't really have that community involvement or civil society involvement.
Allow me just to tie it off. So thanks to all groups. Well done. Thanks to Bob for keeping time. Thanks to all of you for staying on time. We did spend an extra 5 or 10 minutes. I thought it was really great that we had a chance to be exposed to ideas about the second group, although it was about tracking. For me, it was really about science studies, or about communication, whether information or democracy. This third group talking about water.